And more diplomatic discussions over Syria will take place when world leaders are in New York for the United Nations General Assembly next week. To discuss those and much more, I'm joined now by Robin Wright of the US Institute of Peace. Robin, thanks for being here. So Syria has handed over details of some of its chemical weapons stockpile, but not all. What do you make of that?
Well, this is the critical moment that it has a very tight deadline to provide what is estimated to be a list of 1,000 tons of ingredients and munitions and chemical weapons. For the outside world, it's checking to make sure that everything is acknowledged so that we don't get into a situation as we did with Iraq, where there was always this gaming and how long could the regime stall in turning over everything.
Now, President Rouhani of Iran, maybe as part of his general charm offensive, has said that he could facilitate talks in Syria. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's important that the Iranians have come out both critical of the use of chemical weapons and trying to call for some kind of diplomatic outcome. And this is pretty much the position the Russians have taken, that they want to make sure that there is a peaceful transition. That does not mean they're going to walk away from Bashar Assad or at least the broader regime. And it may well be that they're looking for some kind of compromise where Bashar Assad goes, but the majority of the regime actually stays in power. Or the balance of power, at least inside the country, remains the same.
Now, the Iranians are on a diplomatic blitzkrieg, aren't they? Are they going to get this deal so they get sanctions eased and in return they do something about their nuclear program?
Well, Iran's presence at the United Nations next week is really all about will it re-engage with the outside world in some kind of deal that will alleviate the sanctions, the punitive measures that have turned the economy into kind of a basket case, especially for an oil-rich country. And so President Rouhani has reached out through the American media, writing an op-ed in the Washington Post. He's on Twitter and Facebook trying to relay the message that they're interested in constructive engagement now. But that's not going to make the issues any easier.
And what are you hearing about how President Obama is going to respond to this change of mood?
Well, the administration has suddenly found itself in a flip-flop. 2 weeks ago, they were talking about threats from the Middle East, and now they're talking about diplomacy in the Middle East on three layers. There's the peace process, there's the initiative on Syria, and can you convert it into something more than just chemical weapons? And then can you end 34 years of tension with Iran?
And are we also going to see a push from the president next week on the Israeli-Palestinian question, as well as everything else, Iran and Syria? Well,
this is an issue that's near and dear to Secretary of State John Kerry, and he has been at the forefront trying to defy all the skeptics about whether they can bring the two sides together. The real irony at the moment is that you could argue the Palestinians are the most stable border with Israel right now. And so there's hope that they will push for that. Whether they'll get it, all three of those issues are among the stickiest the administration faces anywhere in the world.
Robin Wright, thank you. Should be an interesting week at the UN next week. See you there.